Thank you guys for being here, and Kevin, thanks for the great introduction. How's everybody doing today? Good, I hope. I appreciate the rain. I think it's because we talked about water at a city council meeting this week, and that's kind of like washing your car. It's talking about the shortage of water potentially in our future, and then all of a sudden it starts raining. Before I get started, there was one other dignitary in the room that we needed to introduce, and I've been guilty of not doing it on a couple of occasions. And I said, I'll never do that again, and that is my wife, Ann Handren. If you'll stand up. Yay! That's a first that I didn't make that mistake. So the format that we're doing this morning was kind of after a conversation Kim and I had. I said, you know, I like it when we do question and answer, but if you do Q&A right after I talk, you haven't had time to kibitz. And you haven't had time to really come up with the hard questions. And so what I wanted to do is give you time to come up with really hard questions. So I've never done a State of the City address, so I want to go ahead and manage your expectations right now. I've looked at several that have been done in the past, and I don't have any political experience. I'm not a politician. I'm just a guy that has a little bit of business background. And the way I approach this is the way I would approach any business that I would walk into, and kind of just lay out, what do I see? What do I see as the challenges, and what do I see that we're doing well, and what do I see that we need to work on? So this is a little bit more like I would do, or what I did at CEO as Santikos, what I did at USAA. Maybe it'll be a little different style that you expect to see. I know probably what you're looking for is going to be something more like this.
A quiet refuge where families come and neighbors visit. For more than 150 years, the simple beauty of the Texas Hill Country has called people here. Situated next to the 7th largest city in the nation, Boerne continues to balance growth with the high quality of living our residents have come to expect. As we enter a new decade, we are leaning forward, coming together for a better future while respecting our past. Boerne is a thriving city with a dedicated staff focused on raising the standard. With a clear vision, we enter 2020 committed to making this our best year yet.
Representative of what you think about Boerne? Yes? No? It's a great town. I love this town. I've lived in this town coming up on 4 years. I think this is, as Steve Mack said, one of the greatest towns in the country, maybe the greatest place in the country. Love it here. But I might have a little different perspective from that video as we go forward. Just want to set that expectation right now. So as we get into this, here's where I want to start. Boy, this is perfect. All right. This is really not about the city of Boerne. I believe this is about the community. Because there's a lot of people that are part of this, a lot of you that are here that are not in the city limits. Am I right? That means you don't matter, right? I would never say something like that. It's about the community. It's really about the community. And so I'll put a couple of logos up there. You recognize those logos. Yes, there's the City of Boerne logo up there. Yes, there's the County of Kendall County. I'm a county resident, just like all of you probably are. City of Fair Oaks is important because they're part of our community. The school district is a huge part of our community. So that's where the community ends, right? Perhaps there's a few more people in the community that are really important to what's going on in this environment where we live. There's some logos up there, and every time I do something like this, I get an email afterwards that says, you forgot my logo. So if I forgot your logo, it was by design. There was one logo I meant to put up here, and that was BEC, especially after the events of yesterday. I got to meet one of the BEC employees yesterday, and I had been getting text messages about the power outage that took place that affected some of us in this room. Actually, it affected both Boerne customers and BEC customers. And the gentleman I met last night, his name is Jim. We were sitting and talking over a beer, and he said, oh, we had a power outage today. And I said, I know. There's 4 lines in Boerne, 3 lines in BEC. I know exactly when it happened. And it was a really funny exchange. And finally, he just looked at me and says, how do you know all this? I said, I read the Facebook. It was a fun time last night, Jim. Thank you very much. It's about the whole community. And I put all those logos up there because you'll see why in a little bit. I think everyone plays a really integral role in this. It's not just about the mayor. It's not just about city council. It's about how we all work together. And that's a major tenet of something that I wanted to do since I've been part of this community, is bring people together. So you all got the, you heard our city councilor. Our entire city council's here. This is not against the law. We're not talking business up here. If we are, we're recording it in minutes. That's what we have to do. This is not a walking quorum. If you took Nina Woolard, she's top center. If you took Nina Woolard off the page, the average tenure of that council is less than 1 year. Awesome. So this is a bunch of redshirt freshmen, right? Well, no, Ty's been here over a year, so he's a sophomore, right? My point is, this is a very new council. And I have to tell you that the kind of conversations that we've had as a council, we have not veered away from tough topics. We have taken on a lot of topics in a short period of time. I've been your mayor for 8 months and 2 days, but I'm not counting. And this group has come in with a great deal of energy and passion. And thank God we have Nina with the experience that she's had to help us know why some of the things have happened in the past and help us go forward as well. This is a very, very committed group, and I'm proud to be serving with them as your city leadership. When I came into this role, I don't know if this thing's going to make it work or not. When I came into this role, I had a few priorities. I was asked about them very often before last May and after last May, and my priorities were pretty simple. I had 5 priorities. My top priority was all about communication. I felt like that we as a community, I felt like the government entities did not communicate as well together as they could. I made no bones about that, and I said, well, if I'm going to be part of that and I'm going to lead, I think that we have to do a much better job of collaborating and communicating. Christina's here from the County Commissioner's Court. Commissioner Durden couldn't make it due to family situation. I'm not going to ask you to come up and ask, is it working? But I know that it's working because I know that we include the county in all kinds of things that we work on. And I feel like that's being reciprocated. I know that we've talked to the school about a lot of things. I've engaged with all the folks over here, Brian Benway mostly, but the state leadership has been really important that we work together. And I think that we've made a lot of progress as a group in terms of communication. For those of you that follow Facebook, you know I've done a lot on Facebook over the last year and a half, as well as several other council members going out and posting for the online community. Here's what's going on, because you can't go attend every council meeting. Everything's not going to be everywhere. Everything's not going to be in the newspaper. You're not going to read all the minutes. You're not going to watch 4-hour council meetings like we had this past week. You want to get that distilled down in 1 minute, right? For those of you that saw the mayor's minute this past week, I took 4 hours and condensed it down into 2 minutes. Council, we need to take our council meetings down to 2 minutes, please. So I can condense it down into 20 seconds. That would be awesome. Communication's been really, really important to me. The other of my top priorities is the master plan. The master plan is something that had been put in place in 2018. That was adopted in 2018. A lot of work went into that prior to me being on council. Laura Talley, who's not here today, led that charge. We had an involved group of citizens, and that 10-year master plan was the first time it had been totally redone since 12 years prior. The master plan has some good goals in there. It has a lot of community input. And just like in business, you don't do a plan for 10 years out and not update that plan every single year, right? For business owners, you know you have to look at that thing frequently. What I wanted to make sure that we do is, unlike the prior plan, I don't think it was updated with as much fervor or energy on an annual basis. But now that we've re-energized the master planning process, we want to make sure that we update that plan every single year with our current thinking and not just once every 5 or 10 years. Transportation, big topic. In my opinion, it's a topic that this community has not addressed in earnest over the last 15 years. And I would appreciate if anyone disagrees with that. I'd like you to raise your hand and come up here and tell me I'm wrong. Because we have traffic issues, do we not? We have traffic challenges in a lot of ways. And last year, the Gateway had its course. As soon as I knew I was going to be mayor, I started working with the county court with Judge Lux, Don Durden, as early as February of 2019, saying, guys, we have to do something about transportation. You know, you've seen it if you've read any newspaper. We have a transportation committee that's been formed, and we are looking for solutions that are going to be borne by this entire community, not just brought from a TxDOT community outside ours and brought into here. We're going to use TxDOT input, and we want TxDOT as part of our team. But what we're trying to do is get solutions in place for how do we solve some of our transportation woes. There's a thing called Unified Development Code that's fancy talk, it's specialized talk, but it emanates from the master plan. What we're doing right now, we started this process last year. We are modifying every single ordinance in the city as it relates to development inside the city. This has been no small undertaking. Brian Fowler and I have been part of the steering committee since day one, and it is arduously detailed work to take all of our ordinances, take all the lessons learned of the past, and totally redo them with current thinking and saying, here's what we want to become as development continues to happen inside of our community. We're making great progress on that. We had a fairly deep discussion on this at our last council meeting on Tuesday, and right now the game plan is we are going to hopefully adopt that new UDC in March of this year. It's a big deal. Been talking about this for a year and a half. At the first open house that we had, where we invited the community to come in and hear about the UDC, outside of the folks that are working on it, either on the steering committee or staff, we had 7 additional people show up from the community to hear what's going on. Awesome, right? Water is the last of my top 5 priorities. We have in Boerne a plan that was put together in 2016 called Boerne's 70-year water plan. Everybody knows where our water comes from in the city of Boerne's utilities, I hope, just in case you don't. It comes from underground, which is managed by Cow Creek Underwater Conservation District. We have water that comes from Boerne Lake, and we're actually governed in terms of how much water we can take out of Boerne Lake. At peak, about 25% of our water comes from each of those. The other 50% of our water comes from Canyon Lake, Guadalupe Blanco River Authority. That's our water sources. The 2016 70-year water plan says we got plenty of water. We got enough water for our community to at least double. There's not a lot of issues that we need to worry about. Now, since then, and I know I have Tommy Matthews from GBRA in here, GBRA has been in the news quite a bit over the last 18 months, have they not? Dunlop Lake is a great example, or the former crater called Dunlop Lake. There's been failures of infrastructure on some of the equipment in GBRA that they're having to address. Stuff that's 60, 70 years old that doesn't just live forever and has to be maintained or modified. That is our water source. It's coming from that system. And I personally see a little bit of risk there. We talked about this at council this week. We will be putting together a committee, not to study this to death, but to say, let's get the water experts from this entire community and the adjacent communities engaged and say, do we really have water addressed for this community on a long-term basis? It's a tough topic. It's a very technical topic, because when you start talking about water, and you talk about underground water or surface water or county lines, there's a lot of now state and federal laws that start to kick in. And I am not a water expert, but the game plan that we have right now is let's get some water experts together and let's see what we can figure out. Do we have adequate supply on the long-term basis? Do we need to be thinking about water alternative sources, or are we just fine? So those are my top 5 priorities coming in. Those are all long-term looking things, and I feel good that we're making progress on those. So here we are at a State of the City address. I forgot to make my little joke earlier. I hope this doesn't go like Putin's State of the Union address a couple days ago. I hope City Council doesn't resign tomorrow after today. So let's talk about the city. Normally you always talk about how we doing. Everything's birds and butterflies and flowers, right? The city's economic health. For 32 years in a row, this city has received the certified Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting. If you've been coming to this meeting over the last several years, you know that's been up there every single time. 32 years in a row. Our finance team hasn't been there 32 years in a row. Who's been here 32 years? Our city manager, Ron Bowman. And so I give him full credit for ensuring the financial solvency, the financial strength of this community, because he is the one that runs a city on a day-to-day basis. And it's incredible the shape that we're in. And the kind of ratings that we get from the rating agencies, don't take those lightly, folks. Right? You get those because you have outstanding financials and you manage in a proper way. Thank you, Ron. Ron's a humble guy, and he would say it takes a team to make this happen, and it does, but it also takes a leader. And when I went to my TML school, when I became an elected official, that's where you go when you're an elected official and you don't know what to do. They take a whole day. I actually was with Ty Willison when I went to mine. One of the things they talked about in municipalities, whether it's a county government or a city government, is to be financially strong, you got to think of yourself a little bit like a business. How many of you run small businesses out there? Enough. Well, how's your cash situation? How much cash do you like to have on hand when you're running a small business? Generally, you like 3 to 6 months of cash on hand, right? And we do as a city. We run it just like a business should be run. You have 3 to 6 months of reserves in all of your funds or all your accounts. And that's what gets us that strong rating from the rating agencies. We are fiscally strong. And what is that money there for? Is it there so that we can just go spend it? It's taken 40 years to build that up. What would happen in a lot of communities is you might get a new council that would come in and say, we need to go spend all that money because it's there, we should spend it. Here's what happens in other communities when you think that way. You can destroy your community literally overnight. Right? We're strong, we're financially strong. The last thing we need to do right now is start being frivolous. And as I point out, we have a lot of challenges in front of us. I don't ever want to be on that headline. I'm pretty sure this council doesn't want to be on that. Nobody wants to see that headline about Boerne, right? We're not headed that direction. And we'll make sure we never head that direction. So let's talk about where have we come from just real quick. Let's look backwards for a second. It's always fun to drive in the rearview mirror, right? That's the best way to drive. Let's start there. Look at the growth. Look at where Boerne was population-wise, 2010. Calls for service to the kind of the 911 dispatch number. And then we just got some 2018 numbers for violent crime. If you look at the growth that's happened just in the last 8 years, Boerne's grown 63%. You guys know this, you feel it. The traffic demonstrates it every single day. The HEB parking lot, number one complaint I hear about in this town. HEB, we need another HEB. The parking lot's always crowded. We'll go earlier. Don't go when everybody else goes. You see the growth is pretty tremendous. You see the required services from the city, from the staff like the police, the fire, the dispatchers, the dispatchers manage not only the city of Boerne, but they also manage the county, right? They take calls on behalf of the county. There's a lot of stuff that's happened as a result of that growth. But the cool thing is in the city of Boerne, crime's actually gone down year over year, even with the growth that is happening. That's a testament to, yes, good policing, but also a good community and great citizenry. I think that's a testament to a lot of things. So what does that mean to our community? We have all this growth. We've heard terms like this before. Boerne's booming. I've seen the bumper stickers that say Boerne is gone forever. Every city is gone forever, and a lot of cities are actually gone, right? I think Boerne's great. That's why I moved here 3 years ago. I've met several of you in the audience over the last 6 months. I know a lot of you have been here less than 1 year. You're the problem. Go home. There's a lot that's happened. That video kind of shows you some stuff that's going on around our city. And here's what I've heard since I've been a city council member and a mayor. Well, the growth is coming no matter what. You just might as well accept it. I don't like it, but it's coming. You've heard that? Maybe you've said that. We got to manage the growth. Dr. Macaluso and I were opponents in City Council District 5, and we both said we want to manage the growth. It's not that we're against the growth. We've got to manage it. It needs to be done well and done right for the right reasons. We met a lot of people as we were knocking on doors and said, you just got to stop it. Stop the growth. Have you guys heard this? A lot of people want to stop the growth. Now in business, and this is a chamber event, who wants to stop growing? Raise your hand. Because you will be kicked out of here. And when I say growing, I mean that on a multitude of levels, right? Let's go beyond food, shelter, clothing in Maslow's hierarchy. I want to always personally grow. I want to grow in my community. I want to contribute to my community. I want my community to, business-wise, do well and prosper. I want everyone around me to do well and prosper. That's what growth means to me. It doesn't mean I'm losing my way of life. And this is one I hear that I just like to laugh at. It's the old Far Side, everybody's sitting in a theater that's on fire. Somebody should do something. Thanks for pointing that out. Thanks for engaging. Thanks for being involved. Right, somebody should do something. Well, we are that somebody. So, what's coming? That's what's happened to us, right? And I saw a great quote, the state of the environment that we live in today does not determine our future ending point. It merely determines where we start from. We're starting from where we are, and every year we're starting from where we are. I went to get some data. I'm a data-driven guy, and this is how I look at business, and this is how I look at just about everything. This is how I look at my marriage. My wife would tell you that. We have accountability metrics in our marriage. I'm told that anyway. If you haven't seen this study, this is done by Boerne ISD. It's dated December 2019. Tommy Matthews and the BISD board bring in an outside demographer. You can read on the bottom their credentials. This comes from a group called PASA. They are, as you can see, they're from College Station. They've been doing this a long time. These are experts in demographics. They're experts in demographics on a current basis and on a future basis. And they have been, the school district has been working with demographers for a number of years. And when you look at the accuracy of the predictions that the demographers put on the table, in the 1 to 3 year out range, they're within plus or minus 1, 2, 3%. When you go out 5 and 10 years, 5 years they can be pretty accurate. 10 years, who knows what's going to happen in 10 years, right? But they're pretty accurate. And the school has to have this information. Why? The school has a lot of pressure on them to handle all this growth that's coming, more pressure than just the city of Boerne, because they've got a large area that they have to deal with. And so this has been the best data I've ever seen that says, here's what's about to happen to us. And if you haven't seen this, you're going to have a little, anybody know who Sun Tzu is? It'd be like extra credit. You get an extra dessert if you know who that is. That's the author of Art of War. I'm sorry? Oh, Sun Tzu? He's the author of The Art of War. That's how I know it as. I have the microphone, so I'm right. Get ready for a little shock and awe if you haven't seen this, right? So what they do, this is really amazing what they do. Rich Senna has shown this information to a lot of people. He helped me understand this information. And what they do is they break up Boerne ISD's area into all of these sectors. And each one of those sectors, they then dive into each one of those and they say, what is going on in that little sector? Who's got their house up for sale? Who is aging in such a way that their house is probably going to be, or their estate might be up in a few years? They look at everything about it. And they look at everything that's happened here to now, before now, and they say what's about to happen. And then they project it out. And on a 1 year basis, now remember, these guys are right within plus or minus 1 or 2% on a 1 year out basis. And the school uses this because they're planning schools. How long does it take to build a school, Tommy? 2 years to build a school. You better be more accurate than 1 year out, right? You better be looking 3 years out at all times. And the school's done a great job of handling the volume that's coming in. And the volume that's coming to the school district is far greater than what they anticipated. But on a 1 year out basis, you see, okay, there's stuff happening. You guys can recognize those splotches of green and yellow, I hope. They are existing subdivisions, by the way. What happens in 5 years? And on the scale, the color coding is that red would mean trouble, would say greater than 300 new houses will be in that area in the next 5 years. And you start to count up just the red areas on this map, and you can go, well, there's several, and that's hundreds and hundreds of houses. How many houses does Boerne grow by on an annual basis? Roughly 350 is a good number. Good enough? Close enough? A little more? 350 to 400 houses a year. This is saying next 5 years there's going to be a lot of growth. What does 10 years say? Have you guys seen this chart before? Hopefully if you're a parent of a student, you've seen this. Because you're engaged in your school district. You're engaged in your community. And you really want to know what the heck is coming. What's going to happen inside of our environment? This is a community impact. Where are all those people going to go to HEB? To the one that we have in Boerne. Do you know what? So almost all of this that's on this chart that the demographers has chosen is stuff that is already in flight, approved, underway. Almost all of it. This isn't guessing that this new city council is going to bring on a whole bunch of new growth. This is irrelevant to the current city council. This is already happening. What does this add up to? This is a stunning number to me. 17,000 units, almost 18,000 units at 2 point. Where's Rich? I look at you when I say it. Depending on how you count, 2.3 to 2.5 people per unit. Now I'm going to ask you to try and do this in front of your friends around you. Do math. Make Tommy proud. It's a lot. It's a lot. It almost doubles Kendall County in the next 10 years. Kendall County is 45,000, 46,000, Christina? Somewhere around there. City of Boerne, we're estimating it right now, 17,000, 18,000, depending on who you talk, 25,000, depending on who you talk to. It's going to grow a lot in the next few years. That's awesome. So I wanted to put another picture of all the birds and the bees and the flowers that matter, right? Because with all this growth, we're ready for it. Everything's perfect, right? Heck no, we're not ready for it. What happens when you put that much new housing inside any community? I don't care how far out you spread that. It creates impervious cover. No matter how green you try to be, you're creating a house top, you're creating sidewalks, you're creating roads, you're going to create impervious cover. And you guys have seen these pictures before, have you not? That's what happens. Actually, we have that problem today. So growth is going to continue to strain our already strained infrastructure. How old is our infrastructure? If you look at the roads are the same infrastructure that was put in place over 30 years ago for a population that was probably less than 3,000 people. What has been the great advancement in our road system over the last 30 years outside of Herf Road? You've been here 40 years, you know better than anybody. Nothing really. What percent of the city and county budget go to new roads? It's a great question to ask. This is a great test question to ask. It's less than 2% on an annual basis. And if you look at the annual budgets of the county and the city, we're talking small dollars. So I'll see you in about 400 years, we'll solve today's problems. Literally, we really rarely spend more than $1 million to $2 million a year on roads. And how much does a road per mile cost? According to our transportation committee, depending on, well, I could put numbers out there, and again, I have the microphone, so I'm right. But it could be, well, Rich Sen is here. He's been in the transportation committee. A mile of road can cost anywhere from $4 million if it's just a single lane road with not a lot of other stuff, to $12 million if it's 4 lanes with a center lane and curbs and sidewalks on the side per mile. How many miles of road do we need to solve our congestion problems? Do the math. I think we have some challenges in front of us. So it's not just roads. It's not just drainage. We have drainage problems today. We have drainage problems in a couple of key areas. When we get a heavy duty rain, a rain event that's like every 5 to 10 year rain event, right? You'll see flooding on Old San Antonio Road. You'll see flooding on Caverns Creek Road. If we get a really big event, you'll see flooding in a lot of other places. We have problems from a drainage standpoint. That's infrastructure. Drainage is infrastructure. It's the responsibility of the government to fix those for us. We have a challenge in our utilities. My view, Boerne has several utilities. We provide electricity, we provide water, we provide natural gas, we provide wastewater treatment, sewage. We do recycled water, right? And we also have cable TV coming out next month. I'm kidding. This table almost dropped their jaw. That's pretty funny. Is our wastewater treatment capability of this town? We now have 2 plants, thanks to good planning by the prior city councils and Ron Bowman. We have a new wastewater treatment plant that opened up 3 years ago, something like that. 20 years ago, I don't know how long ago it was, 5 years ago. The original wastewater treatment plant, how much additional capacity does it have, Jeff Thompson? The old one. No additional capacity, so everything has to go to the new one. And the new one was built really with forward thinking in mind. I got to credit the designers of that and the city staff that put that in place. It was built with a 4x capacity of what it has today. And they only built the 1/4 of the capacity now to add additional capacity as new growth comes in the area. That was done with a great design in mind. Each growth of 25% of capacity in that new one, depending on Jeff Thompson and Mike Mann, how they feel that day, they'll tell you that's anywhere from $15 to $20 million to expand that plant. Parks, are we straining our parks? Are we straining our public services? Absolutely. Every new person that comes in, it puts new demand on the city. It's not just there that we're strained from an infrastructure standpoint. I look at infrastructure as bigger than just what the city does. I think the school is part of our core infrastructure to this community. I think you all, the business community, are part of the core infrastructure of this community. Are you being tested and strained on a daily basis? I know the answer to that. The answer is yes. and primarily through labor, if nowhere else. Does this put a strain on this community in general? Is everybody happy every Saturday morning at the coffee shop, or are they gritching about different things? I know. Not everybody's happy, and they know we have challenges. It puts a strain on our environment, natural resources, the streams, the underground water, everything that's going on. This puts a big strain on everything around us. It's concerning to me. So rather than just be concerned about it, I believe you have a city council that is very serious about solving these problems, and I'm talking long term here. These aren't things we fix in 12 months, guys. What's underway today? We've been working on stormwater drainage improvements. We're doing a lot of stuff around this. We've got some folks helping us think through this. We're working on transportation committee. We're trying to find ways to improve the congestion in our community. And that low-hanging fruit added up to almost $40 million. Again, we'll spend $1 million a year working on that. So see you in 40 years. And all the solutions they put on the table did not solve the big equations. They really were just solving interconnectivity problems among and around the community between subdivisions. Let's connect these two subdivisions so I don't have to keep going on 46, so I don't have to get on 87. Can we do this? Can we do this? A lot of the changes are not dramatic. We have a big challenge there. We have a master plan and a UDC that I think we'll be proud of that once that's all done, and the annual updates to the master plan are going to be important. Again, looking long term, looking at the streams and the water quality and the protection of the environment. We have some stuff that's about to go in about new stream setbacks to improve not only the conservation of water, but the quality of water for a long time to come. I mentioned the integrated water plan that we talked about at City Council this past Tuesday. We will probably unveil that and have a group of people engaged as a committee in March is our game plan right now to say, let's take a long term. I'm talking 5 to 10 to 15 year outlook is how I'm looking at this. Jeff Thompson, who runs our utilities, put together last year a wholesale new contract with power companies that keeps our electric prices stabilized over a long period of time. Again, that's looking out to 2028, very forward thinking. I think we have a great collaboration that has started with the EDC in a very different way with the EDC and the Chamber. There's been new leadership throughout, right? Amy Story at the EDC, Kim at the Chamber. And the way we're working together is, in my opinion, unparalleled. And the EDC, it's not the Boerne Economic Development Corporation. It's the Kendall County Boerne Economic Development Corporation, right? It's bigger than Boerne, it's the community. And it's the greater Chamber of Commerce. It's not the Boerne Chamber of Commerce, it's the community. And we gotta work as a community at all times to solve these problems. And last, I want to tell you something that we just started working on in the last couple of months is this thing called Planet Texas 2050. If you haven't heard of it, I hadn't heard of it until Ben Eldridge brought it to my attention months ago. And the chancellor at UT is very concerned about the future of Texas and the resiliency of this great state that has the greatest growth rate of every state in the union. Everybody's coming to Texas. Can we handle it? Do we have the infrastructure? So this is the very same problem I'm laying out to you all about our little community called Boerne. The chancellor at UT said this is a huge problem for Texas, and we got to figure some stuff out because we don't have enough electricity being produced today. And how many new power plants have been built in Texas, BEC, in the last 10 years? 0. Awesome, we're on a great trend. Yet the power supply that is currently inside the state of Texas will not support the population that is estimated to be coming here. It will not. The water that we have right now will not support what's being estimated to come into the state of Texas in 2050. The environment cannot handle and be a vibrant environment, and I'm talking nature right now, cannot handle what's about to happen. And so Ben suggested to me that we get engaged with these groups, with this group called Planet Texas 2050, and we have. We've been working with them over the last several months. And they just started a program with Amy Story at the EDC because economic development is part of the game plan as well, right? You got to be smart in how you grow. And so she's working with the staff at Planet Texas 2050 and working on a long-term plan for the BKEDC. We believe, although it hasn't been confirmed, we are hoping that they are going to adopt this community as a model community. This is a long tenured program. It's about a 5-year plan. And they are going to throw a lot of their resources to help us think and plan the future from a resiliency standpoint. I'm excited about this because I like having some academic perspective and not just people who have lived here and are bitching about the past. Get some people in here that are thinking about the new technology that can help us think differently about the future. And so that's something else that's coming our way. Okay, so I'm painting a great picture for us, right? It's awesome where we live. So what else do we need to be thinking about? What else do we have to be worried about from a financial impact to our community? So in our tax base, our ad valorem taxes that come into the city of Boerne, 85 to 90% of that tax base is already committed on an annual basis. There's no discretionary use of those funds. It pays for the staff that's doing what they got to do. It covers the debt that we currently have. It pays for stuff that's already in flight, and you can't stop it. Okay, let's let some police officers go. Who's ever going to say that? I'm not. Let's scale down the fire force. We don't need to be ISO 2 in this community. We can dumb it down, and all of our insurance rates can go up because we have a terrible fire force. That would be awesome. Those are dumb ideas, right? We're not going to do that. So only 10% of our budget might be discretionary to pay for things. We got a lot of road work to come. The low-hanging fruit was $40 million. Christina, do you remember what the total cost or price tag was on that Kendall Gateway study? I would estimate it as hundreds of millions of dollars. And that's only, not even that, it's only 20 miles of road. I'm not suggesting, by the way, the Kendall Gateway study is something that we're trying to implement for the reporters in the room. It was a plan that was out there, some ideas. I want to look at all the ideas and find the best ideas. With the growth that's coming, we're clearly going to have a new fire station come into bear. And there's a lot of growth coming on the other side of I-10 where I live. How do you pay for that? Some people really care about this stuff called parks and green space and a place to get away from your family. It's the tree huggers, right? I'm one of those people that I think this is important. So if I'm a tree hugger, great. If I'm not a tree hugger, I think this is important. Where are all our new parks going to come from, by the way? Do we have land set aside that are going to be designated as new parks today? The answer is no. And what about the green space that we would like to keep around here that keeps the hill country cool? How do we protect that? And who's going to pay for that? I know, you guys are just going to give up all your land. You're going to donate it to the city and say, just take it and keep it, right? Well, that fell flat. I think we're going to have to acquire some land for future uses. Kendall County, 7th fastest growing county in the United States. For you people in real estate, you're loving this time right now because prices are at their all-time high, are they not? Price per square foot of land is pretty high. Housing prices at their all-time high. It's a great time to be buying land for the future, right? Bad timing on my part. We got a lot of stormwater drainage remediation that we have to plan for. A lot of utility infrastructure expansion that's going to be required. A lot. Wastewater treatment plant, I talked about that. Library expansion is being talked about already because the library is already heavily taxed. If you go there on a school day, well, don't. Because you'll pull your hair out. It's so full. There's a need for these kind of basic, these are quality of life services, are they not? Or am I talking pie in the sky? I'm talking pretty basic stuff right now, I believe. And oh yeah, for the 25 people in Boerne that want a swimming pool and a splash pad, I put that up there for them as well. That's a moneymaker, baby. That's a moneymaker. So we got all this stuff that we got to deal with. And whether I agree with a pool or not is irrelevant, right? What we got to do is we have to get people engaged in this community and say, what do we want to do about the future? We got to plan some of this stuff out. We can't just not address it. We can't not put some wheels in motion and say, we got to start fixing some of this stuff. How do we pay for this? Well, there are some ways we can leverage the state to help pay for this. We don't have to pay for everything on our own. What are some areas where we leverage the state to help pay for things? Number one, TxDOT, right? They have an MPO, they do funding. If the county and the city work well together, which we will, if they work well together and we help fund certain things, we only have to pay 20 cents on the dollar for a lot of the roads that TxDOT will come and maintain or build for us or expand. There's other money available. Some of you went and voted. I think 700 people in Boerne voted in November for the propositions that were put on the ballot. There was 10 propositions. Proposition 8 set aside $800 million for communities that might have stormwater drainage challenges. Jeff Carroll on the city staff has gone and has learned how do we get to be front in line. Kyle Biederman's office has been incredibly helpful to us in terms of knowing what's coming and how do we get engaged with the state. How do we get engaged with all the resources that we have to bear to solve some of our future problems? We'll just pay for it out of all the money that comes in ad valorem taxes, because don't want to get into debt. How many Dave Ramsey fans out there? I'm a Dave Ramsey fan. Don't like debt. Debt's bad in your personal life. It's not bad in business, and it's not bad in county or city. You can tighten the belt only so far. I told you 90% of our budget is already accounted for on an annual basis. We have a 10% discretion. I guess we could tighten it up by 10% and do what? If I tighten it up, now I don't have any discretionary spending. We're going to have to think about smart debt. It's the only way I can see you pay for some of this stuff of this magnitude. And I'm talking 5 and 10 years out, folks. There's just some radically serious problems that we have to address. And if we don't, it just gets worse. Not addressing transportation for 15 years. By the way, once we get a game plan for addressing transportation, how fast is that going to happen? Living within your means, their tax rates haven't changed in the city of Boerne in a long time. We haven't changed our tax rates. We view that as a badge of honor sometimes. I view it as, are we really thinking about the future? Or are we just caught up in the present? By the way, ad valorem taxes, they really are only paying for your current and past environment. When you really get down to it, they're not paying for your future. By design. Right? When somebody moves in, they start paying taxes. They didn't pay for all the stuff that's happened, and the amount of taxes we get on a brand new household that moves in is not that great, and it's not going to fund our future needs. It's not. So Economics 202 would be you have to bring all the housing prices and land prices down. Depress the economy, depress the environment. I don't even have that lever to pull. And nobody wants that. We live in a prosperous community. There's consequences for living in a prosperous community. And this is one of them. So how do we solve the housing problems? The city of Boerne has this thing called the PFC, Public Facility Corporation, and we can encourage builders to come into our community, put their property in a thing called the PFC. It's an entity that we own. I'm the president of the PFC. City Council is the board of the PFC. And we can give people breaks on taxes, sales tax, and all other ad valorem taxes to try to lower the prices. But with these numbers, it doesn't move the meter. They're still going to build, and they're still going to be, even by federal HUD standards, they're going to be building houses that are going to be at $1,860 a month. And you can't afford that unless you're making $36 an hour. This problem is not going to be solved by your city government. I think the problem has to be solved in a very, very different way. Now I'll go into Economics 303. When you got a limited supply, unrealistic demand, prices are being driven up on your labor supply, you have a couple of choices. And the simplest choice from an economic standpoint is you just need to raise your prices and pay your people more because you're in a very rich community. That's a simple answer from an economist standpoint. I don't like some of the other answers that might be out there. So this is the problem I don't know how to solve. And I need help on solving this problem. Nobody's price of land is going lower. Nobody's donating land. It's just like, oh, go build on my place for free. Unless I miss a hand anywhere right here. And for the builders in the room, you know what your cost of building is. It's not going down. Things are getting more expensive every year. This problem doesn't go away. And I can't just wave a magic wand and just, I wish I could. So this is the problem I don't have an answer for. And I don't have a tool in a city council tool belt to pull out and say, this is easy to fix. So I'll leave it at that, but I'd be interested in talking about that with any of you. So I'm going to end with this, right? We're going to end on, it's all about this community. Everything I just talked about was not specific just about Boerne. What's the state of our city? We are an awesome place to live. I love living here. I love walking around and telling everybody, I live in Boerne. I bet most of you do too. I'm not walking around with a chip on my shoulder going, well, it's gone. It's pretty cool where we live, and we have some great people coming in this community. We have some brilliant people that work here. We have some brilliant people that have chosen to move here from other parts of the country. We have a diversity of perspective and insight that I truly value. I think that we're in a great place, and we just got to keep leveraging this entire community. But we still have some challenges, right? I think I've laid out a viewpoint that I think the challenges of the future are clear, and I don't think these are just Tim Handren's opinion. I think these are very real challenges. By the way, these are in almost every community across the country. But I think we're better suited to solve this than a lot of people are. I think education and communication by all government entities, collectively and together, is tantamount. We have to do a much better job of helping people understand contextually what in the world is going on around us. Because these problems are going to be difficult, long time to fix, and they're going to be expensive. most importantly, and this is the number one, when I get asked, what's the hardest thing about being mayor? This is the answer I always give. It's getting this community engaged. It's a problem that's been around for a long time. So I didn't create this, and I don't know if the city council and I will be the ones to help fix it from a city standpoint. But when you get single-digit turnout at elections to vote for your city government or your county government, that's pathetic, right? Obviously, I'm a politician. I'm using really polite words here. It's pathetic. And when that balloons up into the teens because it's a national election, that's awesome. We should celebrate that. We have a disengaged community. And what I've learned is, as I walked around and knocked on doors when I was campaigning to be in this role, and I talked about this yesterday at Leadership Learning, what I discovered is, it's not that people are ill-willed. People are trying to deal with their life. If I go back to my college psychology days and I learned about this guy named Maslow and what Maslow's hierarchy of needs is, people are really struggling with basic food, shelter, and clothing on a day-to-day basis. And during the school year, taxiing their kids to 52 events a night. They don't have time to go to a city council meeting for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, or a commissioner's court meeting for however long they last. They don't have time to go and research all this stuff. They're looking for folks to lead. They're looking for things to be digested into things that are meaningful. And that is called burning area influence citizens. Let's see, are we still awake?
Yeah.
Which is the ultimate of sound bites of how our community is communicating with itself. We have a challenge, and this is going to be a challenge to you all. We have a challenge to get this community engaged. I'm not talking about just voting. I'm talking about understanding. Understanding the challenges that we have and why they're there. I was reading last night on the AIC because it's fun. The new building one, the new city hall, they got lit up last night. And then they rehashed all the arguments from 2017 and 18 about that city hall. Great, that's really productive. Thank you. Okay, we'll go tear the building down tomorrow. That'll solve all the problems, right? Listen, decisions have been made along the way. I'm not going to stand here. I told Mike Schultz, I had a drink with him on his porch on Sunday before he had surgery on Monday, and I said, I'm going to blame the prior regime. It's your fault. And since he's not here today, I really am going to blame him. It's not any one person's fault. We have to get engaged as a community, and we have to lay out some plans that we believe in. That's why that master plan is so important to me. And that's how you run a business. You put a plan out there, you tell everybody about it, you keep it current, and you work the plan. It's not any more complicated than that. That's how you run a business. I think that's how we need to run our city. That's what I want to see happen. And getting the community engaged, yeah, there's newspapers, yeah, there's Facebook, yeah, there's Twitter. I don't do Twitter. Yeah, that's it. Oh, just go put it online. That'll get everybody engaged, right? It takes you all. It takes the leaders in the community to engage the community. It's not one person's job. It's a community of leaders' job. Guys, we need your help. Right? We've got to be thinking about how do we fix these future problems. We got to get engaged as a community. We got to find solutions. We got to lay out a plan for the solutions. We got to figure out how to finance the solutions, and then we got to work the solutions. That's our only choice. And if we make zero progress on all that, then I'll be the worst mayor in the history of Boerne. I'm not going to let that happen. We're going to make progress. Okay, how am I doing on time? Where am I? I'm done?
You said and?
I'm done.
Your wife said you're done.
My wife said I'm done. Okay. All right, I'm running out of time. City Hall opening, city's moving, City Hall tomorrow. You guys know that. So when you're looking for us where to go, you can go there. Listen, one last video. Right? We don't have sound on that, so I'll be narrating while this little video is playing. Boerne's a great place. We have some awesome stuff that makes our community unique. It's a place that people love to come to. We have lots of great things going on, right? And so I'm not painting a dire picture about the future. I'm not painting a dire picture about where we are today. I'm painting a picture that we have a great place to live, and we have a responsibility to ensure it stays great. We have a responsibility to make sure this quality of life does not deteriorate. We have to plan for that future. That's the challenge that we have right now, as I see it, and that is the state of Boerne, Texas.